My family stole $89,000 from me over 7 years, spent it on my brother. Threw him a $340,000 wedding with my money, called me a failure to my face, and then I stood up. My name is Maya, I'm 29 years old. And on the day my younger brother got married in a $340,000 wedding, my parents paid for in cash. My mother leaned across the head table, looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You know, Maya, we always worried you'd never figure life out." Thank God Devon turned out differently. She said it with a smile, the kind of smile that's been practiced so long it doesn't even know it's cruel anymore. I didn't cry, I didn't flinch, I didn't even look away. I just reached down, slowly, and pulled out the manila folder I'd placed under my chair 45 minutes earlier. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to understand where that folder came from. You need to understand 7 years, 4 months, and approximately $144,320 worth of reasons why what happened next was the calmest thing I have ever done in my life. If you enjoy stories like this, please like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely want to hear how this ends. Drop your location and your local time in the comments. I always want to know where in the world someone is sitting when they realize they've been underestimating themselves. Let me tell you about the Okonkwo family of Silver Spring, Maryland. My father, Charles, was a civil engineer who retired at 62 with a solid pension and a personality built almost entirely from the conviction that he was always the smartest person in any room. My mother, Gloria, was a church secretary and full-time architect of family narratives, which is a polite way of saying she was exceptionally gifted at rewriting history to suit whoever she loved most at any given moment. That person was almost never me. Devon is 4 years younger than me. We grew up in the same house, ate at the same dinner table, went to the same AME church every Sunday, but we did not grow up in the same family. Not really, not in any way that mattered. I figured this out when I was 9 years old, the year I came home with a report card that had 5 A's and 1 B+ in gym class. My father looked at it, nodded once, and said, "You can do better." Then Devon came home 3 days later with 3 C's and a note from his teacher about disrupting class, and my father ruffled his hair, laughed, and said, "Boys will be boys. He's got energy, that's leadership." I have thought about that moment more times than I can count, not because it broke me, but because it was the first data point, the first entry in a spreadsheet I didn't know I was building yet. I was the responsible one. The independent one. The one who didn't need as much. These are the phrases that get used when a family has decided, consciously or not, that one child is the investment and the other is the cash cow. I was the cash cow, Devon was the investment. I got a partial scholarship to University of Maryland. My parents contributed $4,000 and called it a sacrifice they'd carry forever. I took out $31,000 in student loans and worked 22 hours a week at a campus copy center to cover the rest. Devon, 4 years later, went to Howard University on my parents' dime. Full tuition, room, board, a monthly allowance of $800, and a used Honda Accord they bought him outright for $11,200. I know the exact number because I saw the bill of sale sitting on the kitchen counter during a visit home, and I stood there for a long moment doing math in my head. I drove a 2009 Nissan Sentra I'd bought myself for $4,700 cash. It had 112,000 miles on it and a passenger side window that only went down, never back up, which made Maryland winters creative. I want to be clear, I was not bitter about working hard. I am the kind of person who genuinely finds satisfaction in building things from scratch. By 24, I had paid off $18,000 of my student loans, landed a job as a junior financial analyst at a mid-size asset management firm in Bethesda, and was earning $58,000 a year with a clear promotion track. I was proud of myself, and that is exactly when my parents decided I was ready to be useful. The arrangement it started with a phone call in October. 2 months after I moved into my first solo apartment, a 1-bedroom in Hyattsville that I had chosen, furnished, and signed the lease for entirely by myself. I remember standing in the empty living room the day I got the keys, feeling something I can only describe as a quiet, solid kind of joy. The call came on a Thursday evening. Maya, my mother's voice, warm in the way that always meant something was coming. Your father and I have been thinking, you know Devin is struggling a little with his first year at Howard. Devin was not struggling. Devin had, by his own admission during Thanksgiving the previous year, discovered that college was basically optional if you knew the right people. But I said nothing. We want to set up something, a family investment account. Something we all contribute to together, that grows over time and helps all of us eventually, for retirement, for emergencies, for, life. The account, she explained, would be managed by my father. They would contribute what they could, maybe $200 a month depending on how things go. Devin would contribute once he gets settled. And I, given that I was doing so well and didn't really need much, would contribute $800 a month. $800 on a $58,000 salary, after taxes, rent, loans, and basic living expenses. $800 was approximately 31% of my monthly take-home. But here's the part that makes sense if you grew up in my house. I said yes. I said yes because I had been trained, across 24 years of life, to interpret any request from my parents as an obligation I had no language to refuse. I said yes because my mother used the phrase family legacy 3 times in under 4 minutes. I said yes because Devin was on the call too and he said, "Yeah, Maya, it'll be great. We'll all be building something together." And somehow I still believed him. I set up the automatic transfer the following Monday. $800 on the first of every month, sent to a joint account my father controlled. I did not have a debit card for this account. I did not receive monthly statements. When I asked twice, my father said the statements were going to the house, and he'd pass them along. He never did. I told myself this was fine, that it was trust, that it was family. 18 months later, Devin graduated from Howard. Somehow, and my parents threw him a graduation party that cost, by my later accounting, approximately $8,400. Catering, a DJ, a venue rental at a banquet hall in Gaithersburg. I know this because I helped my mother write the checks. 2 months after that, Devin announced he was going into real estate and needed startup capital. My parents gave him $22,000. I know the exact number because my father mentioned it casually, the way you mentioned the weather over Sunday dinner. We pulled it from savings, he said. The timing was right. I did not yet understand what savings meant in that sentence. What it meant, I would learn later, was me. It meant me. The contribution arrangement continued for the next 4 years. My salary grew. I was promoted to associate analyst at 26, earning $74,000, and again at 27 to senior analyst at $89,000. Each time my income increased, my parents would have a gentle conversation about whether my contribution to the family account should reflect my success. By year 5, I was sending $1,400 a month. During this same period, Devin's real estate venture failed. Then his consulting business failed. Then he pivoted to personal training, which lasted 8 months. My parents absorbed each failure with grace, optimism, and, I now know, with my money. I was not investing in a family account. I was financing a lifestyle for people who had decided somewhere, at some point, perhaps even lovingly, which is the part that still sometimes makes my chest tight, that my purpose in the family was to fund Devin's potential. Over 5 years and 4 months, I contributed a total of $89,200 to that account. The account balance when I finally obtained the records, $12,450. The math is simple. The Devin's wedding 2 years ago. Devin met a woman named Cassandra at a rooftop party in D.C. She was lovely, genuinely lovely, and I want to be careful to say that what happened to her is not her fault. She fell in love with a man she believed to be something he wasn't, and she deserved better than that too. They got engaged 8 months later. My parents were ecstatic. My mother called me so excited she could barely speak. We're going to give them a real wedding, Maya, the kind Devin deserves, a real celebration. I asked carefully how they planned to fund it. We've been saving, she said. And then after the smallest pause, you know your father has always been smart about managing things. There it was, right there in that pause, but I still didn't fully understand. The wedding planning began immediately. The venue, a $12,000 ballroom rental in Alexandria. The catering, $18,500 for 180 guests. Florals, $6,200. Photography and videography, $8,800. The DJ, the open bar, the custom invitations. The rehearsal dinner, Devon's suit, Cassandra's dress allowance contribution from my parents. When I eventually totaled every receipt I obtained, the number was $147,300. $147,300 for a single day. And during this time, when I asked my father about the family investment account, about whether I might be able to access some of it for a down payment on a condo I'd been eyeing in Silver Spring, he told me, "That's not really liquid right now, Maya. You know how investments work, you'll understand eventually." I was a senior financial analyst. I understood how investments worked. I also understood in that moment, with a cold and clarifying certainty, that something was deeply wrong. The receipts I want to tell you how it felt to become the kind of person who builds a case. It felt like grief first, like standing in a room you thought you knew and realizing all the walls are false. Then it felt like focus. I started in January 22 months ago. I filed a formal written request with my father for account statements, all of them from the beginning. He emailed back saying he'd look into it. I waited 3 weeks, then sent a certified letter to his home address. He called me, slightly annoyed, and said the bank could probably print some things. I went to the bank myself, armed with documentation proving I was a co-contributor to a joint account. I sat across from a branch manager named Gerald, who was apologetic and professional, and I walked out of that bank with 6 years of transaction records. I took them home. I sat on my apartment floor, the apartment with the deadbolt I'd chosen myself, the one no one else had a key to, and I spread them out and I started reading. Devon's name appeared in the withdrawal notes 23 times over 6 years. Transfers ranging from $1,200 to $18,500. Cash withdrawals that aligned, almost exactly, with dates I later cross-referenced against Devon's business ventures. The $22,000 real estate startup, $18,500 from the account, plus a $3,500 personal check from my father. The graduation party, $8,000 from the account. A trip Devon took to Cancun for work in 2022, $4,100 from the account. I built a spreadsheet. I am, after all, a financial analyst. I know how to build a spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, amount withdrawn. Column C, stated purpose where available. Column D, actual purpose cross-referenced. Column E, my contribution total at that date. Column F, account balance at that date. By the end of the spreadsheet, my total contributions were $89,200. Total withdrawals for Devon's benefit, $74,100. Total contributions from my parents over 6 years, $11,200. Total contributions from Devon, $850. 3 months of $283 contribution before he stopped, and apparently no one followed up. My father managed this account. My father made these withdrawals. My father told me for 6 years that my money was growing and working for our future. I saved the spreadsheet. I printed it. Then I printed the bank statements. All 74 pages, organized chronologically, highlighted by category, paper-clipped into sections. I printed the certified letter I'd sent and my father's non-response. I printed screenshots of every text message in which my mother had used the words family investment or we're all contributing together. I printed an email chain from 3 years ago in which my father had explicitly written, "Your contributions are appreciated, Maya, and they're being stewarded carefully." Stewarded, he'd used that word. I had always thought it was sweet. I understood it differently now, and then I found something I hadn't expected. Tucked inside the bank records, almost invisible, was a notation I nearly missed, a beneficiary designation form filed 4 years ago. The account in the event of my parents' deaths would transfer entirely, 100% to Devon. My name was not on it. I had funded this account for 6 years. I was not the beneficiary. I had never been the beneficiary. I sat with that for a long time. I let myself feel it fully, which is the only way I know how to process things. I cried once, not a breakdown, just a sitting on the bathroom floor, back against the tub kind of cry, the kind that's more release than drama. I gave myself that. 20 minutes. Then I got up, washed my face, and went back to the spreadsheet, because what I was building wasn't just evidence. It was a boundary, the most formal, documented, irrefutable boundary I had ever set in my life. I organized everything into a manila folder, tabbed, indexed. The first page was a one-paragraph summary I wrote myself in clear, plain language, with the total dollar figures bolded. Between March 2017 and July 2023, I contributed $89,200 to a joint account managed by Charles Okonkwo under the stated premise of family investment. Bank records confirm $74,100 of this sum was withdrawn and directed toward Devon Okonkwo's personal expenses and business ventures. My contributions accounted for 80% of all deposits. I am not designated as a beneficiary of this account. Part 5. I printed 6 copies. The wedding. Devon's wedding was on a Saturday in October. The ballroom in Alexandria was beautiful. I'll give them that: high ceilings, warm lighting, round tables draped in ivory linen, with the kind of centerpieces that cost more than my first car. 180 guests in their best clothes, most of them members of my parents' church congregation and extended family from 3 states. I had been asked to give a toast. The maid of honor would go first, Cassandra's sister, and then I would go. My mother had specifically requested I say something nice about Devon growing up, which I had taken careful note of and filed away in the part of my brain I use for dark humor. I wore a navy dress. I got my hair done. I sat at the head table beside my Aunt Patricia, who had flown in from Atlanta, and I was by every external measure composed. The evening moved through its usual paces: cocktail hour, first dance, dinner. Cassandra's sister gave a lovely, warm toast. Then it was my turn and I stood up. But then Devon's best man, Marcus, asked if he could jump in first with just one thing. My mother nodded eagerly. Marcus raised his glass. "I just want to say," Marcus said, grinning, "that Devon has always known what he wanted and gone after it. He's the kind of guy who figures it out. Some people take a while to find their footing, you know. But Devon always landed on his feet." There was warm laughter, people clinked glasses, and then my mother from her seat 3 chairs down looked directly at me and said it, quietly enough that only the head table could hear. Warmly enough that someone watching from across the room might have thought she was complimenting me. "You know, Maya, we always worried you'd never figure life out. Thank God Devon turned out differently." She smiled. She turned back to the room. And I reached down, below the tablecloth, and placed my hand on the manila folder I had slid under my chair when I first sat down. I stood up. My father, who had been reaching for his wine glass, paused. My mother looked at me with an expression of mild, gracious expectation. She thought I was about to give my toast. I cleared my throat. I did not use the microphone at first. I wanted the room to quiet on its own, which it did, the way rooms do when someone stands up and something in their posture tells everyone that what comes next isn't small. "Thank you, Marcus," I said. "And thank you, Mom, for that." A few small laughs, warm. Unsuspecting, I've been asked to say something nice about Devon growing up. I paused. I thought about doing that. I thought about standing here and saying that Devon was charming, which is true, and that he could make a room laugh, which is also true. I thought about giving a very traditional toast. I reached down and picked up the folder, but I think tonight is actually a better occasion for honesty. Because Cassandra is joining this family, and I think she deserves to know some things about how it works. And because there are people in this room, people my parents go to church with, people who have watched me my entire life, who I think deserve to understand something too. The room was quieter now, a different kind of quiet. I opened the folder to the summary page. Between March 2017 and July 2023, I said, in the same clear voice I use in board presentations, I contributed $89,200 to a family investment account managed by my father. I was told this money was being stewarded. That word was used for our collective future. I looked at my father. "Dad, you wrote that in an email." I printed it. I held up the email page. Bank records, which I obtained directly from the institution, show that $74,100 of my contributions were withdrawn and used for Devon's personal expenses, failed business ventures, and other purposes unrelated to any investment. I turned to the next tab: the graduation party, the real estate startup, the Cancun trip, all here, all documented. I heard someone at table 7, my Aunt Patricia, I found out later, whisper, "Lord." My parents contributed $11,200 over 6 years. Devon contributed $850, 3 months before stopping. I looked up at the room. I was the primary funder of this account. I was not named as the beneficiary. Devon was, exclusively. My father had gone a color I don't have a word for. My mother said very softly, "Maya, this is not the—" "I know it's not the time," I said pleasantly. "I know. But you made a joke about me not figuring life out, and I wanted to share some figures that might offer some clarity on that." I set the folder on the table, gently, and slid it toward my father. "There are 6 copies," I said. "I've kept the originals." Then I sat down, and the room was silent in a way that 180 people in a ballroom almost never are. What came after, I want to tell you what happened in the minutes and hours after. Because people always ask. Devon stood up. He said something. I'm not entirely sure what, because I was very calm by then, very inside myself. The way I get when I've done something I've prepared for, and it has gone exactly as planned. His best man tried to redirect. The DJ, bless him, started playing something soft and instrumental, the way you might score a tense moment in a film. Cassandra did not look at Devon the way a bride should look at a groom. My Aunt Patricia walked over to my chair, put her hand on my shoulder and said nothing. That was exactly right. She has always been exactly right. My parents did not approach me that evening. The wedding continued. People ate their chicken and their salmon. There was dancing, but the shape of the room had changed. The story of the evening had changed. People who had spent 30 years watching me be quietly dismissed now had a number attached to it. $89,200 is not abstract. $74,100 redirected to a golden child while his sister was told her money was growing. That is not abstract. Numbers do something to people. They make the invisible visible. I left at 9 o'clock. I drove home. I made tea. I sat in my apartment, the one with the deadbolt I chose myself. The Schlage B60N I'd installed on a Sunday afternoon with a YouTube tutorial, and a determination that no one would ever again have access to my space without my explicit permission. And I felt, for the first time in years, entirely unburdened. In the months that followed, the consequences arrived in the order that consequences tend to, slowly, then all at once. 2 of my parents' closest church friends, a couple named the Washingtons, reached out to me directly. They had watched me grow up. They had heard my mother say, at various church events over the years, that I was the difficult one or still figuring things out. They told me they had never quite believed it. They asked if I was okay. I told them yes and meant it. Devon and Cassandra lasted 14 months. She filed for divorce, citing, in her attorney's language, financial deception and concealment of material liabilities. Devon had apparently borrowed money from her, from Cassandra, over the course of their engagement and early marriage, amounts she discovered only after they were legally bound. I want to say I was surprised. I was not surprised. My father's management of the family account became a matter of legal contention when I retained an attorney and filed a civil claim. The process took 11 months and generated paperwork I could wallpaper a room with. The eventual settlement, I cannot disclose all terms, included a payment to me of $67,000, which represented a negotiated partial recovery plus applicable interest calculations my attorney argued successfully. It did not return everything. It never does. But $67,000, invested with the same discipline I've applied to every dollar I've ever earned, does something over time. My parents did not speak to me for 8 months. When they finally called, my mother said she hoped I knew how much I'd hurt the family. I said I understood she felt that way. I said I still loved them. I said I had also filed every document I needed to file, and that love and accountability were not mutually exclusive. She didn't have much to say to that. Where I am now, I am 29 years old. I am a senior financial analyst at an investment management firm in Bethesda, Maryland, earning $104,000 a year plus annual performance Bonuses that last year totaled $18,400. I know. My mother once suggested I might never figure life out. She said it gently, smilingly, in a room full of people. She said it about a woman who had spent 6 years quietly building the most thorough financial evidence folder anyone at that wedding had ever seen. But beyond the salary, I have a real estate investment account I opened 2 years ago, in my name only, funded by my own contributions, and the $67,000 settlement recovery. The account currently holds $91,350. In 6 months, if the market cooperates, I will have enough for a 20% down payment on a condo in Silver Spring, the same neighborhood where I grew up, the same zip code where my parents still live, because I chose to build here and I refuse to let anyone's behavior rewrite my relationship with a place I love. I have a therapist named Dr. Anand. I have seen her every other Thursday for 18 months. I have done the work of understanding why I gave for so long, why I accepted gaslighting as love, why I needed my parents' approval in a way that made me vulnerable to exploitation. That work is ongoing. That work is the most important spreadsheet I've ever built, and it's one only I can read. I have a small group of friends, 3 specifically, who have known me through all of it. Who sat with me on that bathroom floor night by phone, who let me walk them through the spreadsheet when I needed a witness to what I'd found. They are not blood family. They are the kind of people who show up at 9 p.m. with tea and no judgment, and I have learned that is the only definition of family that matters. I have a 1-bedroom apartment. I have a deadbolt I installed myself. I have a manila folder, still, in the top drawer of my filing cabinet, not because I need it anymore, but because it reminds me of something important. I always had the receipts. For years, I didn't know I was gathering them. But something in me, some part of me that knew, even when the rest of me refused to, was always keeping careful records. That part of me was right. It was always that family was automatic. That blood was a contract, an obligation that went both ways, a thing you could always return to. I spent a decade trying to be worthy of a contract my family had, somewhere along the way decided applied only to Devon. I know better now. Real family is not about blood. It is not about obligation. It is not about a last name or a dinner table you grew up around or the specific shape of guilt that only a parent can install in you. Real family is about people who see you clearly and choose you anyway, who celebrate your wins without measuring them against their own comfort, who do not treat your independence as an invitation to extract from you, who do not use phrases like "we're doing this for your future" to explain why your future is the one being quietly emptied. I am not the difficult one. I was never the difficult one. I was the one who kept records. And if you are sitting somewhere right now, maybe it's late, maybe it's early, maybe you are in your car or your kitchen or your own 1-bedroom apartment with your own chosen deadbolt, and you recognize something in this story, I want you to hear this. Your independence is not a reason to be exploited. Your competence is not a justification for being taken from. The fact that you can carry weight does not mean you were born to carry everyone else's. Keep your receipts, in every sense of the word. Before I go, I want to know what you would have done. If you were in my position, what would your choice have been? A. Confront them publicly, exactly as I did. B. Walk away quietly, take the legal route, and never look back. C. Try one final private conversation before going public. Let me know in the comments. And if you know someone who might need to hear this story, someone who's been the reliable one, the independent one, the one who somehow always ends up giving more than they get, share it with them. Drop your location and your local time below. I want to know where in the world someone is watching when they decide they've had enough. My name is Maya. I'm 29. I have a folder, a deadbolt, and a condo deposit growing in an account only I can touch. I think I figured it out just fine.